Today, we are previewing Titans at Broncos on Sunday, our first of two game previews. This one looking at the Broncos side of things with a very special guest. Brandon Perna of ThatsGoodSports joins us to give us the inside scoop on what's going on in Denver. We're also going to talk about the Titans' unofficial Week 1 depth chart with two, maybe 1.5 surprise starters listed there. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. In partnership with 440 Sports, I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. And Justin, today we are doing our very first game preview of the 2025 NFL season, Titans at Broncos Week 1, 3:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff on Fox. Cannot wait for this game. Super excited. How's it going?
Well, you can bet your ass I'm doing well today because we've got our first game preview of the season, first official regular season game preview of the year. We got a great guest in Brandon Perna from ThatsGoodSports, who just has an insanely large Denver Broncos fan base and a vast amount of knowledge on this team, how they're going to look to attack the Titans on Sunday. A lot of good comparisons with, Bo Nix being a rookie, a starter last year with Cam Ward this year. Brandon shed a lot of insight into that on how that went for Bo Nix and how it could go, how you hope it goes almost for Cam Ward this year. So really good conversation we had with Brandon. But before we get into that, we are going to talk a little about the Titans depth chart and a signing that they made. We'll loop that into the depth chart, but first official, I guess not unofficial anymore. I would call it official depth chart for Week 1 here against the Broncos.
I agree. I think this depth chart is more official than most. It is still labeled as the unofficial depth chart,
which I find hilarious. Week 8? When do you release the official depth chart? Like you play a game this Sunday, a regular season game. This is an official depth chart.
I think they don't ever tell us what the official depth chart is. Fair. I think that's the conceit here is that like Brian Callahan has the official depth chart, but he does not. And
it's some intern in like the PR department that's making the unofficial depth chart on the website.
Exactly, and that's why people need to not overreact. We'll talk about this a little bit with Brandon in a minute because the Broncos released their unofficial depth chart and everyone freaked out about the running back situation. Like, you can't do that, guys. People in general, like, you can't freak out so much about Travion Henderson being RB3 on the first depth chart because he's a rookie and it's Mike Vrabel. And, like, I think the only time anything on these depth charts is notable is the case that we're about to talk about. Yep. When a guy like wide receiver, 4th round pick, the second receiver they drafted in the 4th round, the third pick they made in the 4th round is the only of those three guys to be listed as a starter on the Week 1 unofficial depth chart. That's right. Alec Iamaner has apparently, I mean, again, this is unofficial, overtaken Van Jefferson for a starting outside receiver spot, or at least in 3 wide receiver looks. He's the first guy on the field. And look, this is what we sort of projected all along. Did I expect it to happen Week 1? Not exactly, especially after Van Jefferson scored a 65-yard touchdown in the preseason, although he did that playing with backups, so maybe that was a little indicator. But Alec Iamaner, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, that's how you want the receivers to be deployed. It allows Iamaner to play the X, Ridley to play the Z, and Lockett to play in the slot. And I'm sure they'll still rotate snaps. Like, I'm sure we'll see Van Jefferson for a decent amount of this game. But it's nice to see this rookie, Alec Iamaner, one that the Titans could really use a contribution from this season, making this, progress to be at the point where the coaching staff is comfortable naming him as a starter, assuming that this wasn't a mistake by some intern in the back room accidentally putting this together wrong.
I don't think this was a mistake. I think this was very intentional. Look, you and I talked a lot throughout training camp in the preseason, projecting when is Alec Iamaner going to supplant Van Jefferson. We both said, we got to admit it here, well, Week 1, that first snap, it's probably Van Jefferson out there at X. And, maybe it still will be, but probably not. Like, I think it is going to be Alec Iamaner. They've listed him as a starter. It's very intentional. By all accounts, he had a pretty good camp. Maybe not an outstanding one. There were a couple instances where you felt, he could have attacked the ball better, or he had a drop, or this or that, or you'd like to see him be a bit more aggressive, use that frame. He's a rookie. All that stuff, hopefully comes with time. But Cam Ward really liked him. He targeted him a lot, throughout camp and even a bit in the preseason when they played together. So I'm excited about this. Now, it does have to come, I think, with a bit of patience. I don't know. He's probably not going to be A.J. Brown as a rookie and just hit the ground running. There are going to be a couple plays where I think you're going to see some of that experience pop up, whether it's a drop or miscommunication, runs the wrong route, or it's the example we've already seen where you'd like to see him kind of be more aggressive and attack the ball in the air because he's got the prototypical body type to do so. But all that said, this is an exciting development for the Titans. You're going to have to stay patient. I want to reiterate that, but I think this is good news. And you talked about them rotating. Terry McCormick brought up a good point on Twitter. I'm going to give him credit for it. Is there an underrated chance that Van Jefferson isn't even active? Like, if they've got 5 receivers active, we know Chimere DK is the kick returner and punt returner. We know Bryce Oliver plays a really important role on special teams. Is there a chance they only have 5 and Van isn't even active? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and predict it, but I think there's an underrated chance that happens.
I think there's a bigger chance that happens as we get later into the season. I think because you're relying on rookies that they probably will have all 6 receivers up, but I guess it depends on their roster math and how they feel about, who's playing special teams roles. Can Van Jefferson contribute in that area? We wouldn't expect that. No, exactly. So that is going to be an interesting thing to monitor. Like, it wouldn't be shocking for that week 1 inactive list to come out and Van Jefferson be on it. But I'm not expecting him to be inactive. I guess that's what you said too. But yeah, there's definitely a chance that they don't need him because he doesn't play special teams. And that's, how you get active on game days, playing special teams. So that's definitely a possibility. There was one other interesting note on this depth chart, not a huge one, not an unexpected one, I guess, at least in the last week or so. It's not unexpected. Cedric Gray is listed as the starting inside linebacker next to Cody Barton, and James Williams was the leader in the clubhouse for weeks in this competition. Cedric Gray with the come-from-behind victory of the year to come up and secure this starting role. Now, here's one where I will confidently say there's going to be a lot of rotation. They're going to have specific packages where they're each in the game. I wonder if there'll be any packages that feature both of them in the game. Cody Barton can't play 100% of snaps, guys. So that could be something to look for, but we definitely like Cedric Gray's development. He really from where he was day 1 of camp to where he's at now, they've seen the progress. Cody Barton talked about seeing that progress. And James Williams has made progress as well. And James Williams might be their best coverage backer by the time the season's over. But they also might not have that much confidence in him. And I think this also leads us to the Titans signing a player in this position group. Although we hit it at the very end of yesterday's pod, we didn't have all the details. Justin, what are we talking about?
Yeah, Kaiser White, veteran linebacker, signed to the practice squad, had 130-something tackles last year, finished 15th in the NFL in that department. A couple reasons why they might have added him to the practice squad instead of the active roster. Number one, I believe that ensures that his salary is not guaranteed, right, for the entire year, because if he was on the active roster before week 1, there's a caveat there. And on top of it, I think one thing that's really might be even more notable here. Remember, they claimed the linebacker off waivers, Dorian Massey, which was a bit of a surprise to us because he was an undrafted free agent, a rookie that was, I think, down in Minnesota. When you do that, you claim a guy off waivers, he's got to be on your active roster for 3 weeks. So I almost wonder if they're eventually going to do a straight swap here. They add White to the active roster. And think about it, the timing lines up. They could elevate White if they want to for 3 weeks, promote him to the active roster ahead of week 4. He'll have a non-guaranteed salary, and he could directly replace Massey because at that point they'll have satisfied the rule where a waiver claim. I'm just reading all the braille here on the wall here. Just 3 reasons to add White to the practice squad and not straight to the active 53. So, I don't know that White will be elevated, standard elevation for this week. He just got there. Probably some element of learning the playbook. He's a vet. Yeah. Maybe he could do it quickly enough where he could be up for this game. I'm torn on where this puts them because I had a lot of people respond to me in the comments and say, I had a former NFL player reply to me in the comments. He's going to be a starter. He's just got to learn the playbook for a couple of weeks, practice squad thing. They seem really excited about Cedric Gray and James Williams. I don't know that they're just going to demote those guys so quickly for a guy who, I'll be honest, I think we're overrating a little bit. I think a lot of people are seeing the tackle numbers and being like, wow. I think a lot of that was fluff. He's a huge liability in coverage. Not that this is, we talk about Pro Football Focus not being the end-all be-all, but I expected him, when you watch him, I expected him to have a really bad grade in coverage. And he had a 29 last year, according to Pro Football Focus, in coverage. So
That's
it's like,
atrocious.
yeah, like this is not a good coverage linebacker. He's an older, not very athletic, two downhill, right? Like what Rashaan Evans was, what Zach Cunningham was, where they could not play in coverage for what Kenneth Murray was occasionally, where like can't play in coverage for the life of them. I'm curious to see how they handle this. I also don't expect them to demote Cedric Gray and James Williams that quickly.
Yeah, good blitzer. So that's something to watch with a team that
he had a couple sacks last year and a couple the year before. I'll quickly comment because I spent that whole time talking about Kaiser White. I agree that the whole depth chart thing, like probably not as notable as it is at wide receiver because I do think they'll rotate a lot. I mean, Kaiser White might come in and rotate it. Maybe this is 33% snap share between all three of them, but I don't think any of those guys are going to dominate those reps. But good for Cedric Gray coming up with the come from behind victory. But I still think we see a lot of James Williams on Sunday regardless.
Yeah, I agree. So a couple last notes here from this unofficial depth chart. Lloyd Cushenberry listed as a starting center again. L'Jarius Sneed listed as a starting outside corner again. This is what we expected. It's not super notable because, I mean, the only reason I'm bringing it up is when these two guys were on the PUP list, they were not listed as starters. They were moved to the back of the depth chart, and they've been fully practicing since basically last week, and definitely this week. So we're pretty confident in their ability to play, which is a huge turn for me personally over where I was just a week ago, especially with Sneed, but also with Cushenberry. So it seems like they're on track to play, which is great, and they're naturally, obviously listed as starters on the depth chart. Justin, I think that covers us there. We could move this along to our Broncos-Titans preview, part 1 of 2. We're going to do a second preview tomorrow that's just you and I sharing our thoughts and predictions. This is not a prediction episode. This is more of a get-to-know the opponent episode with our guest, Brandon Perna. So what do you say? Should we do it?
I do. I want to quickly note to our viewers, our listeners, like when you might be sitting there. You love us, I think, but 2 previews sounds like a lot. Like Graver said, this one is a get to know your opponent a little bit. I mean, still a lot of Titans emphasis because this is a Titans show, but get to know your opponent. But the second part of the preview, which comes out tomorrow, strictly from a Titans perspective, how what are the matches, the advantageous opportunities, the difficult challenges. We'll focus a lot on Cam Ward in tomorrow's preview, of course, and we'll give our official score prediction, as you said. So very different previews. One more from a Broncos perspective, whereas Thursdays will be strictly Titans focused with, of course, knowledge of the Broncos team that we picked up today. So it all works hand in hand. But yes, I think that does it. Let's bring Brandon Perna in, talk about Bo Nix, talk about this Broncos defense, offense, how they're going to attack the Titans, what this matchup means for Cam Ward and the Titans offensive line. Let's get to that.
All right, it is now time to welcome our first guest of the 2025 regular season onto the show. It's Brandon Perna of That's Good Sports. Check out his YouTube channel, That's Good Sports. Incredible stuff over there you do, Brandon. I'm a huge fan of your work, and I'm thrilled to have you on the show. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am doing great. Happy to be the first guest, so I can set the bar incredibly low for every guest that comes on after me.
Right. I don't know if you're going to do that, but we'll see. Let's get into this game here. Titans-Broncos, week 1. I'm sure the excitement over there in Denver is palpable. I'm just curious, like when you get the schedule and you see that, the Broncos' first game of the season is against the team that had the number 1 pick, was the worst team in football last year. The confidence coming out of Denver for what this week 1 matchup must feel like is probably pretty high. I would say I've seen too many Titans fans with an irrational level of confidence as well. Can you maybe speak some reality to Titans fans who are expecting to go into Denver and just beat up on this Broncos team?
Yeah, no, it's you like a game like this to open the season. The Broncos haven't had a lot of luck with their home opener or their openers for the last several years. And we were in a similar position to you guys. Last year, Bo Nix had to go, I believe, on the road and play Seattle. And it was an ugly game. Seattle's defense was pretty good in that game. He had a couple interceptions, and it left us with, more questions than answers. So knowing that's how it went for Denver, and eventually, it worked out. Seeing a rookie quarterback come in with, a a roster, no offense to Tennessee, that I think still needs some work, needs some tooling. And I like Cam Ward. I'm hoping he has a nice season, and that Titans fans by December, you're like, we got our guy. We got our guy. Our record might not be great, but we got our guy, because that's all I was rooting for last year. And the strength of the Broncos is everybody's saying it's going to be their defense, and I believe their defense is going to be good again. So rookie quarterback going against a very good defense with an incredible pass rush. Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain. I will never let anybody forget. That's a tough outing. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I'll probably pick some ridiculous, score, but I think you guys just want to see Cam Ward make, I don't know, a handful of throws, and you go, all right, those are NFL throws. We're good.
Yeah. On that note, I was going to mention that, you guys went through finding a franchise quarterback last year in Bo Nix, which is super exciting. And Titans fans are hoping to do the same thing this season. But with Bo, Brandon, tell me, when did you know he was the one? Like, what was that feeling like when you were like, wait a second, we got our guy?
A lot of people will point to the moment where he yelled back at Sean Payton on the sideline, right? So Sean was like getting after him, and you could see Bo getting in his face. And I believe that was the Raiders game, and then things shifted in that game. The Broncos went on to win it. I think that was the moment where you realized he had confidence, like, to talk, because we watched it a year before. Sean got in Russell Wilson's face, and Russ just was like, cowering. For a guy who's been in the league as long as Russ, to see a rookie do that, you're like, okay, he's got some stones. But for me, I think the throw that made me go, oh dear God, it was to Marvin Mims, and it was in that Browns game, and his Bo in his own end zone throws it just deep down the middle of the field, barely goes past the defender's hands and into Marvin Mims. I was like, that is when I look back at this season, that's one of the best throws by any quarterback, top 10 for the year. It's in a situation where you're in your own end zone, so a lot can go wrong. Like, that's a tough spot to be making that throw out of. So for me, it was that throw versus that Sean Payton moment. And that was a crazy game in prime time, against Cleveland. And I think the Bengals game, even though Denver lost that game, taking Cincy into overtime when they were trailing to get some big plays late in that game, that's kind of what you want to see from, a rookie QB, where the moment's not too big from. And I don't think Bo sweats under pressure. I mean, he might because he's working so hard, but you know what I mean.
I especially want Titans fans to note there that it didn't look very good in week 1, right? 2 interceptions. They lose the game to Seattle. But by the end of the year, Brandon, I mean, 3,800 passing yards, just a hair under that, 29 touchdowns. Like, I'll be honest with you, that wasn't my statistical expectation for him in year 1.
Yeah.
Going into year 2 now, knowing that, you feel good about what you've got, there's obviously a lot of continuation. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, they add Evan Ingram at tight end, a lot of continuation on the O-line. Obviously, the system remains in place. Not just the excitement level, talk about that, but the real question that I layer in here is, what's the expectation now? What does that look like going into year 2?
I think it's win a playoff game. It's just, we expect to get there. We didn't expect to get into the playoffs last year, but to watch our team do it, amazing. So it's to win. And if it's not a win, it's like, if you're playing a team like Buffalo, you better be more competitive for, 60 minutes, because they looked great that opening series, and then Buffalo just didn't give up any more points. And I think people too should remember that it wasn't just week 1 that Bo Nix and the Broncos offense didn't look good. It was week 2. There was that whole narrative, like, none of the rookie quarterbacks had thrown a touchdown through those first 2 weeks of the season. Like, Bo didn't throw a touchdown until an ugly win over the Jets. It was that rainy game. Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing well, but it was, Bo Nix has negative passing yards heading into halftime. Like, things were not going well at that point, and then he finally hit Cortland Sutton in the back of the end zone. So it took a while, and Sean Payton has a complex offense, and I don't know much about Tennessee's offense, how complicated it is, but it took some time. So win a playoff game, And then I think like if you're watching Cam Ward, it's like watching for that game where it kind of clicks, where he's not thinking about the offense and he's just playing. That took some time for Bo, and it still wasn't perfect against better teams, against better defenses. The Broncos kind of struggled. We were fortunate to watch them play the NFC South last year, which Denver swept. So that helped. That helped.
Yeah, schedule will do that.
To add one more thing to that, the other expectation is to just win against higher levels of competition this year. That's like the one thing I want to see this team do.
So, Bo Nix, rookie last year. Broncos add an exciting rookie this year in second rounder, running back RJ Harvey. And I think fantasy football players around the world were distraught on Tuesday when the unofficial week 1 depth chart comes out and J.K. Dobbins is listed as the starter, RJ Harvey listed behind him. Is this one of those Sean Payton is just like an old school guy who's putting his rookie running back not as the starter, but when the game comes around, we'll see who's the real starter? Or is J.K. Dobbins actually going to be like the starting running back in this backfield? How do you see the carries shaking out?
Yeah, I advised people to not draft any of the Broncos running backs in fantasy this year. I think JK is the starter. I think that's kind of been known here. Like he's going to go out week 1. And it's tricky because I don't know how Sean's going to deploy the workload. And I think it's going to be a week to week thing. It's going to be like, once he actually sees what these guys' strengths are. And I think until Sean finds like his, his Alvin Kamara, he's going to be doing it more about matchup. Even last year, like the Broncos run game was so pedestrian, but it felt like they never let one guy just carry the load through the course of a game. It was always by committee. And the amount of touches per player, you did not know week to week. So there's going to be, I feel like there'll be like a week 3 game and everybody's going to see Jaleel McLaughlin has like 2 receiving touchdowns and 90 receiving yards and like 4 carries or something. So I'm excited about JK though, because I think it's his experience. I think he does everything that Sean wants. I think with RJ, one of the concerns is pass blocking at the moment. So I think early in the season, you'll see more production from J.K. Dobbins. And then once Sean finds that next guy he can trust, and that's why Audric Estime is gone. I don't think Sean Payton felt like he could trust him. And it became a weird thing last year. Like they spent a pretty, a fairly high draft pick on him. And then it was just like, oh, he's inactive for Buffalo in the playoffs. They got issues here, I guess.
Right.
Give you a little background, Brandon, before I get into my next question. But the Titans' offensive line was really bad last year. It was terrible. One of the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, they're pretty confident, though, that they've really improved it this year, right? They went out and they paid a left tackle a lot of money in free agency. They feel good about what he's going to bring. They brought in Kevin Zeitler, veteran guard, to shore up the other weakness. And they feel good about the other 3 spots. They got a first-round left guard and Peter Skoronski. Former Broncos center Lloyd Cushenberry is the center here. And right tackle J.C. Latham, another first-round pick. Like they're feeling really good on paper about what this offensive line looks like. Trial by fire in week 1. A Broncos defense that had a league-high 63 sacks last year, I believe it was. I was astounded when this matchup came out, when they released the schedule. I went to go look at the Broncos, statistics last year. They had 63 sacks, and I think, Graver, I've mentioned this to you. You know who had the most sacks for them last year, who was like no longer on the team? It's like Cody Barton, I think, and one who's on the Titans now, by the way, who had 2 sacks. Like for a team that had 63 sacks, you look at a team like the Eagles, for example, who lost to Josh Sweat, who had 10, 11 sacks. Like that didn't happen in Denver. Everyone is back. How confident are you in this pass rush going into this game? And again, I know you don't know a lot about the Titans O-line, as I mentioned, but it really is going to be a trial by fire for a unit that they feel is at least going to be league average, maybe top 15 this year.
Yeah, I think what's tough about defending the Broncos defensive front is everybody contributes. And their defensive line is both good and deep. So like last year, Nick Bonito, he had double-digit sacks. Zach Allen was a monster. He had a lot of sacks. Jonathan Cooper, kind of your underrated edge player on the other side there. But then, like, you have John Franklin Meyer on that defensive line, who I think Broncos fans absolutely love, and we hope they figure out a way to pay JFM. That was like a huge get in the 2024 draft. Denver traded a pick to the Jets to get JFM on the defensive line. And DJ Jones, really good against the run. And then, like, Malcolm Roach, he played really well. And their rookie last year, Jonah Ellis, he's looks very solid. He had a really nice preseason. So when they rotate guys in and out, like, if Malcolm Roach is coming in, he's still making plays. Like, I can't remember. Like, there was so many times last year where, I don't know, if like John Franklin Meyer, he's not on the field. And I'm like thinking JFM just made a stop. I'm like, oh, it's Malcolm Roach again. Like, so it's the depth. And I think Zach Allen is just such like a game wrecker. He opens up things for Nick Bonito, for, your edge defenders to get your true pressure from the edges. So I think like going into last season, defensive front was like something we had a ton of questions about. Nick Bonito didn't have, the year prior. It was a couple sacks. We're like, if he develops, maybe. We've seen some flashes. They let Baron Browning go. He went to Arizona, and he looked like the guy with the most potential because he was so fast off the edge. So that was an area where we had question marks, and then by the end of the season, like, that's the strength of your defense. Pat Surtain and then that front. And then you had questions, in maybe other spots. But yeah, I think it's tough to defend, and I think you'll get a good gauge of where your offensive line is. If they allow just like 2 sacks to Cam Ward, then you should feel pretty good about it. I feel like he's going to get sacked like 4 times in this game, though. And that's a rookie. Like, they're going to hold on to the ball. It could be more than that. You don't know. I think if it's 2 sacks, you feel good about your offensive line, and you probably feel good about Cam Ward just making solid decisions. Get rid of the ball. Don't take the sack.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough front there. And you mentioned Pat Surtain. Like, Pat Surtain helps the pass rush get home because he covers better, and the pass rush helps Pat Surtain because they get to the quarterback quickly. Like, when you have strengths on both sides of that, it really just like feeds itself, and that's why the Broncos have one of the best defenses. Brandon, I want to ask you about, you mentioned not how confident you are, but you feel pretty good about this game. And I'm curious, like, have you considered the angle of Cody Barton, Lloyd Cushenberry, backup quarterback Brandon Allen playing their revenge game against Denver, and the fuel that might give the Titans side?
Yeah, that's a crazy revenge game. Cody Barton was a pleasant surprise last year. Linebacker's been a constant question there. So I'll be rooting for Cody outside of this week. Cushenberry, he had his best season, and then, Denver let him go. So I'm rooting for those guys. Brandon Allen, it's been a while, but there was a week or two I was like, maybe Brandon Allen's the future starter for Broncos quarterbacks, because I forget what game he played pretty well coming in as a backup, and Denver was just cycling through their quarterbacks. We were in the middle of the carousel. I was like, maybe Brandon Allen's the guy. So I root for those guys, but yeah, I'm not too worried about their revenge angles.
Well, Brandon, we really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. If you're out there and you are curious for more from Brandon Perna, check out That's Good Sports on YouTube. Check him out on Twitter at Brandon Perna. We appreciate your time. Good luck this season. I got the Broncos as a playoff team, so.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck to the Titans, and I hope Cam Ward is really good. You guys need it. You need it in Tennessee.
Don't we all?
We do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. All right. Thanks again to Brandon Perna for his time there, Justin. This is going to be our formula for this season, at least for now. We'll see if it works. And that's to do, a preview looking at the opponent with a guest from that market. And then on Thursday, you and I will be doing our official final preview, and that's just what we're going to do all season. Wednesdays, get to know the opponent. Thursdays, final preview. And then Sunday, we'll be back with a live stream recap of the Titans-Broncos game, and that's going to be what we do all season. So get ready for it. If you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up, like, drop your thoughts in a comment below. What do you think of the questions we asked Brandon Perna? What do you think of his thoughts on, Bo Nix struggling week 1? What are you expecting from Cam Ward in Denver at Mile High? Crazy atmosphere for your first ever NFL game. Yes.
And I'm curious, people comment below, are you interested in this format? Do you like the guest on Wednesday and then the Graver Melo preview on Thursday? And that's, again, we reserve the right to make changes if it's not working, you don't like it or whatever. But the plan this season, 5 episodes a week, right? That includes the live stream on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday, of course, we'll be sort of recapping what happened in the game that just passed on Sunday. And then Wednesday, we come with you part 1 of the preview. Thursday, part 2. Sunday is your live stream, immediate reaction recap. Soon as that final whistle goes, Graver and I will be live 5 episodes a week. This is pretty much an everyday show nowadays, people.
We did it. We finally made it. This was our goal, Justin, and we've gotten here. Also, we should announce this formally. We will no longer have videos from Drew, unfortunately. Drew Beatty, who we had brought on just a few weeks ago, did a couple of great film breakdown videos. Maybe he got noticed on our channel, Justin, or maybe he just got recognized for all his good hard work. But Paul Kaharski has sort of, I wouldn't say stolen Drew away from us, but Paul has the means to give Drew what he deserves, and unfortunately in this state of where we're at with the show, we do not. But if you guys continue mashing that subscribe button and help us grow, maybe we get to a point where we don't lose talented people to people who can pay them more money. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thanks everyone again for tuning in. Thanks to Sinkers Beverages. We'll be back tomorrow, so until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.